Revolution Radio proudly presents, live from the heart of the Blue Ridge, Roanoke, Virginia. It's the Just Bernard Show with host Bernard Alvarez. Join Bernard as he shares topics that reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience, including world liberty, the esoteric, suppressed technologies, spiritual ascension, and human consciousness. Humanity has awakened, and our time has come to realize our full potential. And now, live from the Star City, your host, Bernard Alvarez.
So, for those of you who do not know about my guests, let me tell you a little bit. Michael, I consider Michael a friend. He's been on the show many times before. It's probably his fourth appearance on the Just Bernard Show. Michael J. Murphy is a multi-award-winning director, producer, humanitarian, and the president of the Coalition Against Geoengineering. As an independent reporter and community organizer, his work includes directing and co-producing the groundbreaking documentaries Why in the World Are They Spraying? What in the World Are They Spraying? Which has awakened millions of people to the environmental threats of global geoengineering programs. He's getting ready to release his next and third film called An Unconventional Shade of Grey. And, well, welcome to the show, Michael. It's great to have you back on. How are you today?
I'm doing well, and thanks for having us on. We actually are renaming the film to Unconventional Grey. We took out a few words to streamline it, but...
that'll be easier to remember.
it's easier to remember, but yeah, I just had an opportunity, like we discussed, in Oregon, there was a chemtrail summit, and I played one of the scenes. We have 3 scenes. And I was a little bit nervous because, A, it's not 100% complete, but I thought the message that it's all new information that we brought out was important. I was shocked by the response. It was overwhelming. A lot of people had incredible questions. Yeah, actually questions that we cover in other scenes. So it was, what about this? What about this? So it's very exciting.
Very cool.
As a filmmaker, and I know you want to get into some other things, you would think I would have total confidence in my third film, but it's a very uncomfortable spot. This is my final film addressing geoengineering. I'll talk about why later. So for me, I'm a perfectionist. It needs to be right. And it's a call to action film. So it's more about just giving information. It's about activating and getting these programs stopped. So anyways, that's my long intro. I know you probably wanted to go in other areas.
Oh, well, we have time to cover everything, but thank you for that. And thank you for clarifying a bit more about the film and what's going on with you. For those of us that don't know about geoengineering or don't believe in chemtrails or whatnot, I remember when I first started noticing the chemtrail lines up in the sky. And I mean, one day, I remember it was St. Paddy's Day back in 2007 or 2008 in Fort Lauderdale. And I mean, the sky had grid lines like you would not believe. And I took film of it, and I think I posted it on Facebook. Facebook took it down. Surprise, surprise. And I just remembered so many people saying, oh, that's just, air fumes or, the contrails. And of course, we all got caught up in the whole conspiracy aspect of it, not understanding what it was, thinking that, they're just poisoning everybody or they're putting, biological microbes in something so they could just like press a button and kill everyone. I mean, just all these ideas that nobody really knew what it was. And we've evolved in the activist world, I would think. I'm glad that we're clarifying and starting to understand what it is all about, what it's coming from, thanks to the work that you've been doing and thanks to other organizations that are bringing it out. But for those of us that don't know what a chemtrail is or what geoengineering is, could you loosely define for us what is a chemtrail and what is geoengineering?
Yes, well, loosely defining, I guess we can start with scientific definition of geoengineering, and that is the artificial modification of the Earth's climate. So there are scientists, universities, corporations talking about their desire to put 10 to 20 million tons of toxic aluminum and other substances into our sky for what they say is the stated goal to mitigate this idea of global warming. So the idea is by putting a very reflective but also very toxic substance, aluminum oxide, into our sky, it will act as, well, I guess you could say mirrors, reflecting sunlight back into space and cooling the planet. So in their proposals, they talk about utilizing airplanes and other sources of aerosol disbursements to put these into our sky. So the idea would be to spray this stuff via patents such as the Welsbach patent, which is a device designed to spray aluminum and other geoengineering materials out of airplanes. We can get into that a little bit later. So what we see in terms of the sky, we had this idea of contrails or condensation trails, and those are real. When an airplane flies at a certain elevation, it will condense because it's a hot engine. Moisture in the atmosphere will condense, forming a trail that usually quickly dissipates. What we see on a regular basis today are these long lingering trails. They do not dissipate. They create cloud cover, but the fallout was something that we exposed in What in the World Are They Spraying, my first film. Go to whyintheworldaretheyspraying.com for more information about that. But the rain tests, we're getting rain tests all around the world where we're seeing these trails that have the exact footprint or fingerprint of geoengineering programs, aluminum, barium, strontium, and other heavy metals. And they match, again, we just discussed these patents. They match patents that are designed to specifically spray this. We've seen levels of aluminum, the primary ingredient in geoengineering programs, just escalate. In some cases, as high as 50,000 percentage points, just literally off of the chart. Since we believe that these programs have been in full-scale deployment, estimated time since that started is about late 1990s, probably 97, 98, those time periods. But then we have, and God, we only have an hour, so we can't talk about all of the consequences that we're seeing coming to fruition. But there are literally thousands of different or hundreds of different dots that connect that indicate that these programs have been deployed and are ongoing. Some of these are weather patterns being disrupted, jet stream disruptions, droughts in certain areas, floods in other areas, ozone destruction, particulates being in the sky, for example. There's a significantly higher amount of aerosols. NOAA, various scientists around the world admit this. However, they fail to source where these aerosols are coming from. We know where they're coming from. Geoengineering has absolutely been deployed. And in terms of how destructive it is, based on my research, I'm not aware of any more destructive programs, including nuclear war. This is a very slow, insidious destruction of our weather systems, ecosystems, and our atmosphere as a whole. So it's very concerning to those of us who are aware of this.
Absolutely. I can't, we'll talk about it a little bit here today, but I mean, just the ecological ramifications or even the medical ramifications that this could create on so many levels, dealing with crops or soil and water. And we can talk about that more a little bit. But Michael, is it fair to say that these types of programs, such as, let's say, like cloud seeding or something like that, this has been going on for decades now, hasn't it?
Yes, and in geoengineering for over 70 years, believe it or not, was openly admitted used in a program called Project Popeye in the Vietnam War, where I think this is accurate, but I'm going to have to double check. But it appears that they induced 17 feet of rain on the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which the objective was to flood out the Vietnamese supply line. These methods have been used in warfare applications, but also many other applications in its simple weather modification. Now we have full-scale deployment. And what we covered in Why in the World Are They Spraying was really how this relates to weather control, how it's disrupting our weather and really creating most, if not all, of the changing climate or the climate change that we're seeing. So Unconventional Gray really digs deep into how these programs relate to climate change, and it's a call to action film, so directly related to the climate change agenda and how we can stop this.
Wow. Wow. And I mean, just so many thoughts are going through my mind right now of how this could be used positively and negatively, of course. And I saw a clip recently, I think it was yesterday. I happened to catch a clip on Facebook showing Michio Kaku talking about this. And he was giving examples how people would literally be able to let's say, make sure it's a clear day for their wedding, or to make sure that it's raining in a certain area for their crops. And I mean, they were making it sound like designer weather, and it really sounds very sociopathic to me. I can't imagine the gall of the people who are creating this, generating this, and what what the end goal could be. And I was wondering, what are some of the negative impacts that this could be used for? Some
Oh
examples.
God, complete destruction of our ability to grow natural organic food. So we spoke, geoengineers are very open to the fact that their programs will create droughts in certain areas, floods in other areas. Anytime you put a particle in the sky, and these are nanoparticles, it's going to impact where rain falls, where it doesn't fall. And what the particles act as, they act as cloud condensation nuclei. So normally when the sun hits the ocean, we have evaporation. Water molecules will adhere to other water molecules. Eventually, will fall as rain, and that's our normal pattern. When you introduce these nanoparticles, what happens is water molecules attach on other water molecules depending on what type of molecule it is and the size, and instead of falling as rain, it can drift unless you put like silver iodide in certain instances. It will induce rain. Now, what that does, it creates imbalances. Anytime you interfere with the natural system where rain should be going, nature is perfect. Nature has a balance to it. You interrupt that balance. So as a result, we have things like the California drought. We have droughts in Africa and Asia. This was a concern of geoengineers. But what was interesting, what we really covered, and I'll get into this California drought issue because it's key to understanding these programs and the corporatization of natural systems. But one of the areas that we covered was the organic food supply. I live on part-time on an organic farm on Maui, and we've lost about 50 to 60% of our yields over the past 10 to 12 years. This is largely not only due to the imbalances of rain, but it's due to an issue that geoengineering creates, which is abiotic stress. So what in the world are they spraying? We covered the pH changes in our soil. So for example, Northern California, we've seen our soil pH change to 10 times the Sorry, somebody had called me, so I got bumped off of my line, and that typically happens during Skype interviews. But we've had massive, I mean, that's just a huge change in the pH. So like in Northern California, a lot of the trees and the natural ecosystem there requires an acidic soil. So when the aluminum's introduced, it alkalizes the rain, it alkalizes the soil. So a lot of the plant life that requires an acidic soil to grow will die. Exactly what's happening. But getting back to this issue of abiotic stress is anything that stresses the soil. So it's heavy metal contamination, it's pH changes, too much moisture, drought conditions. And as a result, we're getting crop loss around the world. With this, we have found a solution to the problem. You're not going to like this one, Bernard, but Monsanto has come to the rescue, and I say that very facetiously. They have this abiotic stress resistant genetically modified seeds. So through the death and destruction of our ability to grow natural organic seeds, Monsanto comes in, they design a seed. It's a terminator seed, so it does not regenerate. So the farmer gets put in a very precarious position. They're forced to buy these Monsanto seeds, and then they have to go back to this corporation year after year after year to get the seeds because, again, they don't regenerate seeds. So it really puts the farmer in a position of being enslaved to Monsanto. It's a hostile takeover of our food supply. So we're very concerned about this issue alone, and but there are thousands of other very negative things associated with these programs.
It really does freak me out, the idea that they can pollute our soil, pollute our water, pollute our air, and then they come up, of course, to the rescue to to create these seeds that are resistant to all the poison that they're dropping on us. Now, beside agriculture, have we seen or have we done any investigations or studies as to any physical problems? I've had people talk about respiratory problems. We see we've heard, the whole idea of maybe Morgellons is associated with this, or the chem webs that a lot of people have been filming and whatnot. Where does this all play into, and how much of it is real, and how much of it has been studied and shown to cause a negative effect to our respiratory?
Oh my God, respiratory mortality has gone through the roof. Went from number 6 down to number 3 in about a 6-year period. I mean, just a huge jump. What happens? Aluminum is extremely toxic to our bodies and to the ecosystem. While it's very abundant in the Earth's crust, it's bound onto other minerals, onto other substances. What they're spraying is freeform aluminum. So our bodies do not have the ability to process this. And because of that, it's very toxic. We interviewed Dr. Bourne in What in the World Are They Spraying? She's specializes in aluminum toxicity, was very concerned about this. And yeah, I mean, aluminum will bind onto natural systems. It's very difficult to flush out. As a result, you'll see higher incidences of ADD, Alzheimer's, various cancers, and it compromises the immune system in general, including every breath that we take now, because these nanoparticles are in our sky. It goes into our lungs, obviously impacts our lungs. So we're seeing all kinds of respiratory illnesses and all kinds of immune deficiencies. Barium, it's very toxic, increases blood pressure, can lead to a lot of heart diseases, but it also compromises our immune system. Strontium, it's a carcinogen. That's another primary ingredient. Dr. J. Marvin Herndon, who is in Unconventional Grey, go to Unconventional Grey. We absolutely need support to complete the film. Please go become an angel or pre-order. But he's done and written some peer-reviewed papers that indicate that one of the things that is also effective for geoengineering is coal fly ash. Coal fly ash is one of the most insidious toxic substances. It's actually required to be trapped on precipitators because it is so toxic. Because of this, you get all kinds of very toxic elements, including aluminum, barium, strontium, but also arsenic, other things, lead, things that are very toxic to us. So these things are, I believe, the most threatening to our health. And again, this is not something that you can just choose to move into a different location. This is not something we can get away from, for example, closing our windows. These are nanoparticles. It's very difficult to filter them out with HEPA filters. And again, every breath that we take, we're breathing these things in, these particulates in. So it's very concerning for those of us who have an interest in keeping our bodies clean. We do have a test. There's a new test. It's a lot of people have been getting blood tests, so which indicate and are showing the very geoengineering footprint that we're finding in rain tests, very high levels of aluminum, barium. I would suggest that people get blood tests. We now have a new test. It's called Toxi Solutions. Go to unconventionalgrey.com. On the lower right-hand side, you'll see this test for a fraction of the price of getting a blood test. You can use what's a gum swap. So by swapping the gum, you then can send, it's sort of like a Q-tip material, send this into the lab, and you'll get results back in a week or two, I think is what it is. But then we ask to see how high your levels are. Most people's levels are extremely high. Then talk to a healthcare professional about doing detoxes. I do regular heavy metal detoxes and other cleanses to remove these substances out of my system. But I would highly recommend that because, again, these compromise our immune system over time. Yes, they will lead to a lot of illness, including death. So, yeah.
My gosh. Well, and it's, you kind of just answered my question. My next question was, if it's a heavy spray day, if you're seeing all these lines in the sky, is it a good idea to go inside? Is that going to be helpful? So, I mean, does it help at all just to close the windows?
I think so. You know, a lot of people, especially those who are sensitive on heavy spray days, they report irritability, headache, dry mouth, things like that. So sometimes going inside can help with that. But again, uh, there's no escaping this. What we have to do is get these programs stopped. My next film, Unconventional Grey, we have a very specific strategy that we're looking for the community who's aware of this to move forward in supporting both a legal and legislative strategy. So it's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to talk more about that after the break, and we are coming up on a break in about 2 minutes. But before that, just a quick question. There's so many I don't know what you want to call it, gadgets or things that people say are helpful. I've seen people that sell like chem busters, and they're like the what is the orgone resin crystals and things like that. Is there any proof that this stuff works?
I have to be honest with you. I have not really tested. That's
Oh,
not my area. So I think it merits investigation. I think it's something to look into. I personally don't have any documentation, so I'm not able to speak about such things at this point. But we're
okay.
really, our focus is really looking into the weather control and how this relates to the climate change agenda and the legal and political aspects of this, and that's what I think right now is a critical time. So that's what our next film is focused on, and I'm very excited because I'm confident that we have a game plan and a strategy that effectively will stop these programs. So I'd love to talk about that after the break.
Yeah, absolutely, and we will. I'm very interested in finding out who is developing these programs, why are they developing them, and how we can put a stop to them. But we're going to have to take a break in just a minute. Before that, I just want to remind everybody you can find more information on these topics at Michael's different websites. Which is the main website you would say to go to right now?
Right now, you can go to my new film, which is unconventionalgrey.com. That's GREY.com, or go to our What in the World Are They Spraying Facebook page. You'll see links all over that page. But again, unconventionalgrey.com. You can see the trailer to Unconventional Grey, which is incredible, and get information about our other two films as well. So we encourage everybody who orders a copy to make copies and hand out for free. Both films have been an incredible activism tool for sharing this information in your community. So unconventionalgrey.com, yes.
And after the break, we will continue.
And now, back to your host, Bernard Alvarez.
And welcome back to the Just Bernard Show here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Before we start our discussion again with Michael, I just want to let everybody know about my new project. I am now on, I don't know if you guys have heard about this platform called Patreon. Michael, this might be helpful for you as well. Patreon is a great platform for those of us that create video, that create podcasts, that are doing, media, and it's a great way for us to interact with you a little more personally, as well as to get funding for the work that we do. I do have different levels with different gifts, depending on how much you're willing to pledge every month. I've got all kinds of goodies to give back to you, everything from 1-hour consultations to all the archive podcasts and just so much more. Anyway, you can find that at patreon.com/Bernard Alvarez. That's patreon.com, Bernard Alvarez /Bernard Alvarez. Anyway, so go check it out. Check out all the posts that I have up there and tell me what you think. But now let's get back to our discussion with Michael Murphy. Michael, I'm very interested in hearing a little bit more about your movie. What makes this movie different than the past two films? What and why are they spraying?
This film is different based on our geopolitical scenario that we have. And we just had COP21,
Yes.
also known as the Paris Climate Agreement. And what this did, it was a partially, actually legally binding, not in all areas, but a legally binding climate agreement by 193 nations. And what a lot of people don't realize, this was or is in the process of becoming the biggest transfer of monetary and political power in the history of the world. So they created global governance. And right now they're building the structure. They're looking at 5-year implementations for different stages of this. And essentially what they created was the legal framework to legalize geoengineering. Right now, geoengineering programs are illegal without our input or the input of our legislators. And what this agreement does, it allows an unelected body, the IPCC, along with the United Nations, to tax us, for example, to create laws in legislation and also mandates. So geoengineering are some of the things that they're talking about legalizing. And again, this strips away the sovereignty not only of us as individuals, but removes our legislators' ability to represent us. So right now, we're moving into an area where they're creating what many are calling a carbon dictatorship. So everything that we're doing is going to be based on carbon, which I'd like to talk to in a minute, but I think I'd like to switch back and look at this issue of global warming or the climate change agenda and how it relates to geoengineering. So everything that we see in terms of taxation mandates, including the very basis of geoengineering programs, is based on this concept that the planet's warming. So we have these climate models that show variations in our temperature. Getting back to geoengineering programs are designed to change the temperature of our planet. They're designed to manipulate our weather. They've been ongoing for over 70 years. They're not included in climate models. And because of that, the climate models are not accurate. Yeah. So the general denial is that geoengineering is not happening. We know that it is. We have a tremendous amount of proof, but in Unconventional Grey right now, we're seeking support to get airplanes into the trails. We have J. Marvin Herndon, who's overseeing this, planning on writing a peer-reviewed paper that will be court admissible. Once we prove conclusively that these trails are geoengineering and geoengineering programs are occurring, then we can prove that climate models are inaccurate, they're bunk. And our goals are to move forward with our legal framework. So we've created a model that can be used in courtrooms around the world. So our goal is to expand this aerosol collection project so that it can be used. We have evidence around the world and get court injunctions to stop any climate change laws, mandates, and legislation until our skies are clear. And then we can go back to talking to see what the planet's doing. But while geoengineering programs are continuing, it's literally impossible to determine whether the planet's warming or cooling. So I really want to stress that this is the key to stopping geoengineering. If we don't address climate models, all of these mandates, including the legalization of geoengineering, is based on bogus climate models. So we have to stop. And what's beautiful, Bernard, about this film and about how we're exposing this, it literally is a strategy of unity. So we have powerful corporations, we have powerful governments that have a vested interest in this huge transfer of wealth and power. If we get court mandates to stop this transfer of wealth, then we can get the very entities who are pushing global warming to support our efforts in our objectives, in our goals in stopping geoengineering. Then we can look to see what the planet's doing. But in terms of jet stream manipulations, in terms of how geoengineering changes our climate, there's no question about it. It's largely, it's geoengineering programs are responsible for most, if not all, of our changes in the climate. We can prove that. I know how to stop this. We just need support. So again, go to unconventionalgrey.com. Another area that we include, if we look at all of these changes, so anytime we have weather events that are just absurd or outside of what would be normal, it's blamed on CO2. Right. The melting of the Arctic, and I realize that's debatable. They're saying, oh my God, our Arctic's melting. We have to tax you. We have to create a carbon dictatorship. We have to create world government. This is the corporate objective agenda that's been used, as you know, for literally hundreds of years. Now they have the catalyst to move it forward. But looking at the Arctic, now a couple of things happened. They were pushing for a guy by the name of Steven Schneider, and we cover this in Unconventional Grey, he back in the 70s, he said that we have a coming ice age. So we put this out in scientific documents and journals that we have a coming ice age, and we have to look at ways to melt the Arctic because, of course, the ice age would be a threat. So he proposed a couple of things. He proposed spraying black carbon on the Arctic, and the idea is if you put black carbon on snow or on ice, it will absorb more heat and thus melt the snow. Well, we have pictures now of, for miles, as far as the eye can see, the Arctic that looks like it's paved with blacktop. It's just covered with black soot and black carbon. So it appears they've done that. He also proposed spraying chlorine in the atmosphere, and the idea is chlorine destroys ozone. No ozone, stronger sun, which then will melt the ice. Well, we have a huge ozone hole in the Arctic region. Appears that they've implemented that. Another thing he spoke about doing was detonating nuclear bombs in that region. We've learned and found documentation, we're covering this in the film, that they've detonated over 123 nuclear bombs, some under the ice. Russian government has done this. Of course, that creates heating, but of course it's CO2. It's because you're driving, you're breathing. It's because of the cows. That's what's doing it. All of these factors have nothing to do with it. So we're going to tax you. We're going to create a multi-trillion-dollar industry because of that. And of course, we have the jet stream manipulation, which we covered as well. We have this polar vortex. So right off of the coast of California, and we didn't discuss this earlier, but through geoengineering, they put these metals in the atmosphere, and through HARP or HARP-like other technologies and ionospheric heaters, they can heat up that metal, and it expands, it creates a bubble. So the jet stream that should be coming into California hits that bubble, and it's diverting north. So it's taking the precipitation, and it's taking the warm air, it's bringing it up into the Arctic. Anytime you divert a jet stream, it's going to want to correct itself. So it's pulling the cold air back into the Midwest and the East Coast. That's why they've been getting heavier than normal precipitation, and also that cold weather coming down. But that warm air going into the Arctic obviously relates to the melting of the Arctic, all being blamed on CO2 because it fits in with these objectives. But no question about it, the Arctic has been melted. And when I first heard it, I didn't know why. That was my major question. But now we looked into this and the politics in the area. A couple of reasons. One, obviously, it falls into big sales. It's a big sales pitch for the climate change agenda, but there are also shipping lanes in that region. Right now, we have a Cold War scenario. U.S. government, China government, Russian government, they're all jockeying for those valuable shipping lanes because the ice has melted. And then probably the bigger agenda, right now we have oil companies that are pumping oil. There's an estimated 13% of the world's undiscovered oil in that region. So when the ice receded, the oil companies have gone up. So there's definitely geopolitical corporate agendas to go into that region to melt it. And of course, again, they're utilizing this to support the whole global warming story, saying that this is CO2. So, God, we could get into what this means for individuals because we definitely covered this in detail in the film. But Bernard, we're looking at, God, you think Nazi Germany was bad? It's nothing compared to what's being planned. I was in Paris. We brought our cameras. We recorded what they're planning on doing. It's very, very, very concerning. I think a lot of well-intended people are buying into this whole global warming bit, but they have no idea what this is going to mean to them, their freedom, or should I say coming complete lack of freedom and complete control. And this goes into controlling in the home. Right now, again, in many countries, we have what's supposed to be a representative government. People are supposed to vote, and government's supposed to follow the Constitution, for example, here in the U.S. Well, this climate agreement that Obama signed on to completely circumvents our Constitution. And a lot of people say this has to be ratified by the Congress and the Senate. 95% of all international agreements have been signed via executive order by the president. So that's one way that they could go and move forward with the mandates that we'll talk about in a minute. And then we have the TPP and the Transatlantic Partnership. These are trade agreements that are legally binding, and that is a backdoor for them to move forward. To learn more about it, I'd like to go into detail, but we do in the film, and our group in Oregon had a chance to see this, so we articulated it very well. So yeah, you better believe global governance is the agenda. The legalization of geoengineering is critical, and a lot of people, Bernard, tell me, oh, geoengineers don't care about legalizing this. They're doing it today legally, and that's a lie from the pit of hell. We have critical mass. People are awakened to what's going on. Today, we can take both legal and legislative steps in stopping geoengineering. If we allow this climate change agenda to mature and geoengineering to be legalized, there won't be anything that we can do in terms of legal and legislatively. These programs will be legal. We will be in a carbon dictatorship, and they will do what they want when they want, regardless of our opinion or legislators' opinion. We're moving into a very, very much of a scenario into a dictatorship, and that's what these climate agreements did. And there are many corporate agendas. I mean, this is like a corporation's dream, which I'd like to get into in a second, but I know that you had a question.
Actually, I have several. Well, my head is spinning actually, but let me just say this. You know, the idea that I never took it into consideration the geoengineering aspect or the weather modification aspect of climate change. Of course we're aware that climate is changing. Of course we're aware that pollution does contribute to that. But, the average person automatically, like you said, we blame it on carbon, we blame it on corporations, and it really sickens me how they've, quote unquote, corporatized the whole climate change, save the planet, the eco movement seems to have been, taken over by corporations in a way for them to profit. And I can't help but laugh at these, carbon taxes. What is it? Emission offsets or offset emissions or whatever. We can don't pollute this area, but pollute the other area like it's not going to make a difference or like it's going to make a difference,
Yeah, well, cap and trade. It's just that.
Yeah.
It's capping your carbon usage unless what? Unless you have money and the ability to trade. So like most of us, let's say if I ride my bike most places, I walk most places, my carbon footprint is very low, but I do not believe that is a factor or much of a factor in our changing climate. What's going on through smart meters and other things that we'll talk about, they're going to make you cap your carbon. And some people think, oh, it's going to be a world of bliss. No. Everything you do is utilized on carbon. So let's say you like to stay up to 11 o'clock. You're going to have a smart meter on the back of your house. It's going to limit and start turning off your lights. It has the ability to do that. You might have to have lights out at 8:30. Well, I want them on past. Sorry, you've hit your carbon max for the day. In Oregon, they're starting to enforce a mileage tax. So let's say if you live 20 miles away from work, but you only have an 8-mile allotment, you're going to have to pay for those additional miles, or you might not be able to drive at all. Let's say you use a vacuum today, appliances, energy companies and appliance companies love this because they're moving into a whole new green appliance economy. So we have certain companies that are going to develop, let's say, a vacuum cleaner, which saves carbon. Through a smart meter, they have the ability to monitor what appliances you're using. So if you use the vacuum cleaner that you're currently using today, you could get a $200 fine and be forced to buying a whole new vacuum cleaner. Huge corporate agenda, trillions of dollars are involved with this, but they're going to be regulating when you use, exactly what you use in your home, and implementing fines for what we do in our home. If you're angry about these red light cameras that take your picture, wait until you go home and you realize you left a light on and you went to work. You could get fined $50, $200, whatever that fine's going to be. This is complete control in our lives, and it's not going to be living life as we want to. They're going to cut back. They're going to majorly make us cut back and fine us for the mistakes that we make or fine us for the additional carbon use that we have. This is a transfer of wealth. It's a transfer of freedom.
Yeah.
It's a dictatorship. And we have millions of people demanding our legislators do more to address climate change. Are they aware that they didn't say what they wanted? Are they aware that they just gave their power, their control over to a corporation that doesn't have an interest in them. They have an interest of consolidating wealth and power. And that's what's going on. People say, well, I'm just going to go live off of the grid. Well, I'm sorry. This is a whole new carbon-based economy. That's what they're moving into. And if you have 3 acres, you might get taxed $10,000 a month for that acreage, because acreage and land equate to carbon usage. So you're going to have to pay. They're going to be jacking up prices. And the goal, this is all related. We interviewed Patrick Wood and Rosa Corey, 2 Agenda 21 objectives, which seeks to get people off of their land. Rosa calls it the stack 'em and pack 'em, getting people consolidated in little towns, in little apartments, because they're more manageable, they're more controllable. So this is not going to be, well, I'm going to live off grid. You're not going to have the ability, this climate change agenda. You just gave your power over to the UN. And guess what? Obama just announced that UN troops are coming to America. Guess what? They're not coming to protect your free speech. Lynch, in the Obama administration, is looking into prosecuting climate change deniers. What? Wait a minute. Aren't we supposed to have free speech? I'm sorry. You just sold it. You just went and marched in Washington and demanded our legislators do more to address climate change. Guess what? They did. Now you can't even talk about it. Or that's what they're moving into. Well, what about our constitutional rights? I'm sorry. Wait, the U.S. was eroded. You just gave the UN the power and authority to dictate and mandate. And people don't realize what we're moving into. Nobody wants a dictatorship. And let me tell you something. Again, I ride my bike most places. I have a very low carbon footprint. I do that because I want to, because I feel it's better for my health and better for our ecosystem. However, I don't want to be mandated and dictated to.
Right.
You know, if people want this, take measures yourself for what you believe in. Don't give your power, your authority, your life, and your children's future and freedom away to dictatorial Nazis. That's what just happened, and people don't realize. And again, it's all based on geoengineering. Geoengineering is the key of this. How do we stop this oppressive agenda? We go back to climate models. Everything is predicated on climate models that source CO2 as being the cause of our warming. Well, garbage in, garbage out. You leave out a huge factor in a model. Guess what? They're inaccurate, they're bogus, and you can't move forward with laws with this estimated $90 trillion of a transfer of wealth is what they're looking at. Do people realize this money's not coming out of thin air? This money's coming from somewhere, and it's going somewhere. It's being taken from the people with all of their rights, and it's being given to corporations. That is what just happened, is in the process of happening. Geoengineering is the key. I can't stress this. We are literally in a very much of a crisis situation, Bernard, in the geoengineering movement. It was infiltrated, trying to get people to support the global warming agenda. If you support global warming, you literally are pushing people towards supporting the very legislation that is designed to legalize geoengineering. So I had to throw that out. I think it's critical so people know really what's going on and how important this is. It's critical.
I can't help it. It all goes back to, it seems like what you're saying, it all goes back to corporate control of everything. And it's really, really important. Like you said, it's really, really important to follow the money, to see who is profiting from this and how they're profiting from it. And that cynicism toward any large corporation, I think, is justifiable. I have a lot of issues with corporations, and the idea that we have a representative government has been thrown out the window decades ago, thanks to corporate infiltration of our government. So, somebody's going to profit from some of this. And do we have any idea who is profiting?
Well, a lot of energy companies, governments by far are the major benefactors in this, but governments are they're run by corporations. So the bankers, this was initiated go back to the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, who have been pushing global governance. This is their dream. It's Michael, the problem reaction solution. They have the problem, they sold it.
We got one more minute. I was wondering what is your suggestion to humanity? What we can do to stop this?
Go to unconventionalgrey.com. You can learn. You can click on our tab that says lawsuit. You will see our legal objectives. But again, we need to get air samples. So we need to get airplanes into the sky and then build our legal model. I have a legal team. We just need some support for this. That is the way that you stop it. You get court injunctions to stop the climate change agenda. Then they cannot legalize geoengineering. And we get support from all sides of this issue to demand that geoengineering stops, especially the support from those who believe that there is a global warming problem. This is a message of unity. We do need support. We've reached tens of millions of people, it's been estimated, with What and Why in the World Are They Spraying? People pre-ordered the film or became angels. So, Bernard, we're in the final stretch. We're hoping to get this out the first week in June. We can't do it alone, though. We absolutely need that support. So please go to Unconventional Grey, which is spelled GREY.com, to learn how you can get involved.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much, Mike. You've given us so much to think about, and I really appreciate you coming back on the show. Good luck with the film, and may we overcome the corporate dictatorship. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Have a great week, everyone. We love you.